Well, thank you, Philip, and welcome to everybody, and a special welcome to all our distinguished guests this evening. It's a great honour to welcome Major General Charles Bolden, Jr. back to the Royal Aeronautical Society following his appearance at our space conference last year, which was an unqualified success. Just a little background on our speaker tonight. Major General Bolden was nominated by President Barack Obama and confirmed by the US Senate as the 12th Administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. He began his duties on the 17th of July 2009, and in his role leads a nationwide NASA team to advance the missions and goals of the US space program. Since taking up this position, Major General Bolden has overseen the safe transition of 30 years of space shuttle missions to a new era of exploration focused on the full utilization of the International Space Station and space and aeronautics technology developments. Well, if that wasn't enough, before that part of his career, he spent 34 years with the Marine Corps, which included 14 years as a member of NASA's astronaut office. He traveled to orbit 4 times between 1986 and 1994, commanding 2 missions and piloting 2 others. These flights included the deployment of the Hubble Space Telescope and the first joint US-Russian shuttle mission. It's an absolute privilege to have him here this evening, and I know that we're all looking forward to his speech. So I'm going to welcome him to the stage now, but before he starts his speech, it's my privilege and the Society's privilege to award him Honorary Fellowship of the Society.
Thank you all very much for the great turnout. I think everybody came for the reception. In fact, I know everyone came for the reception and the fellowship. In fact, Space Kate, who is a longtime friend, Kate Arkless, sitting here on the second row, I decided I would call her out tonight because as the President and I were talking on the way down the steps about challenges these days, Martin mentioned the fact that while the Society has been very good for, almost 150 years, we're all concerned about the lack of youthful involvement, and it seems like Kate's generation doesn't seem to be joiners as we remember being. So Kate, I'm challenging you to go out and get some in your generation to join the Society, and I'll hold you to it, all right? I want to offer very special thanks for the honor just bestowed upon me of becoming a fellow, an honorary fellow in the Royal Aeronautical Society. And I also want to thank my 2 colleagues, my 2 fellow heads of agency, Dr. Parker and Dr. Okamura, who are here, and I know they are, like me, well-traveled because we started our week in Paris. And some of us went other places. I came in this morning from the Milan Expo, which was absolutely spectacular. Had an opportunity to see, at least get a glimpse of the pavilions of Japan and the UK and Kuwait and 100 and some odd different nations who are there and will be there for 6 months. And it's absolutely spectacular. So if you happen to have a few days and you want to do something that's really neat, go to Milan and try to take in the forum there. It's very good. You know, for a kid from South Carolina, and I still consider myself to be a kid from South Carolina, although I'm not real happy about the goings-on in my home state right now, but for a kid from South Carolina who didn't even decide that he wanted to be a pilot until fairly late in the game, and I mean really late in the game, this is a great honor tonight. And it is an exceptional honor for me to have an opportunity to be associated with people like you who are passionate about aviation and aerospace and are forward-thinking and trying to make sure that we as a people continue to advance the cause of aeronautics. You know, once I had the aviation bug, though, it took me a while to get it. I came out of the United States Naval Academy after having decided that that's where I wanted to go to college as early as 7th grade. And I've been telling this story for the last few days because every time I think about it, it's amazing that I am where I am. Because I learned about the Naval Academy on television, a program called Men of Annapolis that used to come on when I was a kid, and it talked about life at the Naval Academy, and I fell in love with it. Not for any good reason. I fell in love with it because of the uniform that the midshipmen wore, but most importantly, and most of the young men in here can understand this, because all of the beautiful women from all over the Northeast United States frequently came down to the Naval Academy looking for a midshipman to prospect as a future husband. Needless to say, I got the best wife in the world, but it did not come from the Northeast United States. I was fortunate enough to marry a beautiful young lady who I have known since we were 3 years old. Our families were friends in South Carolina. My mom and dad and her mom and dad were teachers together. They had gone to high school together. Our dads had played football together in high school. And they introduced us on the beach when we were both 3. And as the story goes, my dad turned to her dad and said, "Save the bow-legged one for Charles." The bow-legged one happened to be the middle girl of 3 who was feisty and rousting around, and that's who I ended up with, and I was privileged to do that. You know, I've now flown aircraft of all sorts, and I love flying over our Earth, and it was one of the greatest thrills of my life to pilot a vehicle in space. It was something that I had no idea what it would be like, and it is something that I cherish and I look back on every single day, recognizing how incredibly fortunate and blessed I was to do that. It's a great privilege for me right now to lead our NASA team. And I remind everyone that the first A in NASA, the big A, is dedicated to advancements in aeronautics and making aircraft systems around the world safer, greener, and more efficient. My friend Okamura-san and I, in our heads of agency meeting, our bilateral meeting in Paris this week, actually brought in our respective aviation heads, and we are expanding the collaboration among the nations of the world in the area of aviation, trying to make sure that as we put in new systems to make aviation safer and more efficient, that we share it around the world, so that as the U.S. grows or the U.K. grows or Japan grows, then all the other nations of the world have an opportunity to do the same. My colleagues and I have been able to experience a lot of that system on this trip, having been, as I said, to France and to Italy before arriving here. Getting out of the United States, getting out of Dulles Airport was probably the hardest part of the trip, but once we got out of there, people the next night on our flight were not so lucky, but we're here. There are still many improvements, obviously, that need to be made, but in a lot of ways, things are vastly better as compared to previous decades. I think it's just a matter of perspective, to be quite honest. When I was here last fall, I spoke to you about what NASA was doing and what we plan to do, and I have some updates for you because we've been very, very, very busy since then. I want to first thank President of the Royal Aeronautical Society, Martin Broadhurst, again, Martin, for your incredibly gracious invitation to join you and for this opportunity to be here, but most especially for the special recognition. I also want to commend this organization for nearly 150 years of remarkable leadership, service, and advocacy on behalf of the global aerospace community. Thanks also to David Parker, David, you and your team at the UK Space Agency for your long-standing partnership with NASA and your love of this society. And to you, Okamura-san, thanks to you for your leadership at JAXA. As NASA continues to make major strides in an unprecedented human journey to Mars, We're pleased that so much of the international community is in agreement about the strategic choices for space in the 21st century. It's my belief that we're entering the golden age of global cooperation in space exploration. As I've said many times, the success of our modern space programs will be judged in large part on how well we continue to make space exploration about global partnership, particularly since it's clear that no one nation can do it alone, and that the benefits to be gained are for all humanity. We've all come a long way since 1866, when this organization was founded and focused on balloons and gliders, and heavier-than-air flight was a serious engineering problem. The Wright brothers' famous first flight occurred in 1903, but it wasn't until 1915 that we in the U.S. formed the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, whose centennial we just celebrated in the U.S. This organization was NASA's predecessor, and research by the NACA's engineers at its world-class laboratories and wind tunnels across America led to fundamental advances in aeronautics that supported victory by Allied forces in World War II, propelled supersonic flight, and laid the foundation for what was to come with the space age when the NACA became NASA in 1958. Of course, aeronautics is still critical to NASA's mission. We like to say NASA is with you when you fly, because technologies on which we've worked are on or in virtually every aircraft and every control tower worldwide. Likewise, the United Kingdom has made significant contributions to the world aviation community that include Frank Whittle's design of an early jet engine in 1930, the first flight in 1967 of the vertical short takeoff and landing Harrier jump jet, as well as the West's first commercial supersonic airliner, the Concorde. Together with our international partners, NASA remains committed to transforming global aviation by dramatically reducing its environmental impact, maintaining safety in more crowded skies, and paving the way toward revolutionary aircraft shapes and propulsion systems. We've developed a strategic vision that focuses our aeronautics research efforts to best contribute to the nation's future societal and economic needs. We've defined 6 strategic focus areas comprising of the following: safe, efficient growth in global communications, innovation in commercial supersonic aircraft, ultra-efficient commercial vehicles, transition to low-carbon propulsion, real-time system-wide safety assurance, and autonomy. We just completed flying 2 NASA experiments on our Boeing partner's Eco Demonstrator 757 platform, both designed to improve airflow over the surfaces and ultimately reduce drag, reduce fuel consumption, and reduce pollution. One, the active flow control, includes 31 small devices that blow jets of air on the vertical tail to increase airflow, reduce turbulence on the tail, enhance its horizontal lift component, and perhaps someday reduce its size, maybe even to 0. There's some hope that it may eliminate the need for a vertical tail altogether. The other involve non-stick coatings applied to the leading edge of wings to help repel bugs and reduce drag. We're conducting complex technical demonstrations with the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States and airline partners to test an integrated suite of technologies that make it possible for more aircraft to arrive safely and on time in the same period of time during high traffic periods. Over the last 3 years, we've transitioned 4 tools to the FAA, which will be integrated into our air traffic management system. We're also developing decision support tools to help flight controllers keep aircraft separated, maintain throughput, and provide efficient flight paths. At the same time, we remain focused on our future in space, building on the legacy of NASA's historic achievements in space, from the Apollo moon landings to launching the Hubble Space Telescope 25 years ago. Our sights are now set on a journey to Mars, and we won't get there without the help of our partners in Europe and around the world. While robotic explorers have studied the red planet for more than 40 years, our journey for the human exploration of Mars begins in low Earth orbit aboard the International Space Station, where astronauts from several nations at any given time are helping us learn how to live and work in space for extended periods of time. American astronaut Scott Kelly and cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko are now well into their historic one-year mission aboard the station, which will provide valuable data about living and working in space for the long run. Our journey continues in many other areas with the arrival next month of the New Horizons spacecraft at Pluto, after a journey of 9 years and more than 3 billion miles. That's pretty incredible. From a several-foot flight of a glider at Kitty Hawk to a journey to the edge of our solar system. But we're not stopping there. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate again our colleagues with the European Space Agency for the incredible, absolutely incredible accomplishment of the landing of the Philae lander on Comet 67P, and I'll let you say the rest of the name. We launched 5 Earth science missions over the past year, the latest of which, Soil Moisture Active Passive, or we call it SMAP, is going to help us track soil moisture on a global scale. I can tell you that'll be important to farmers and people around the world, but perhaps no more important than to our citizens in the United States and the western part of the country, where we're really facing a crisis with severe drought. Climate change is the challenge of our generation, and will continue to make Earth observation on many levels a priority to provide the data we need to understand our planet and its changes. The James Webb Space Telescope launches in 2018 to a spot about 1.6 million kilometers from Earth, where it will peer beyond our solar system to other galaxies and observe phenomena such as the oldest light in the universe and even the atmospheric makeup of some of the newly discovered exoplanets circling distant stars in other galaxies. Since I last spoke to you, our Orion crew module had its first flight into space, traveling to an altitude of 5,800 kilometers, farther than any spacecraft designed to carry humans has flown in more than 40 years. It performed spectacularly and is now back at NASA, where we're studying it and its system intently. The Space Launch System rocket that will eventually carry it continues to move ahead, and we just had the second test of the RS-25 engines that will power its core stage at the Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. The key to success for all our efforts in aviation and space is found in the cooperation between NASA and our international partners, including the UK Space Agency. In a world rife with geopolitical conflict and uncertainty, these steps taken together in space are a clear demonstration of the benefits to humankind that can be achieved through peaceful global cooperation. That spirit of international cooperation is what will propel us to Mars, because it is clear that no one nation can do it alone. And as I said before, the benefits to be gained will be for all humanity, because Mars matters, because our home planet most definitely matters, because the ways we travel across our globe matter, and because the inspiration that all of this provides to future generations matters. I've met a lot of students on this trip, and let me tell you, they're very excited about the things our generation has accomplished on which they're going to build their own milestones. They're the ones who have not lived in a time when humans were not exploring space. Some of you sitting in this audience. They're the ones, you're the ones, who are actually going to travel to Mars. Oh, how I wish. I think we can all agree that beyond the scientific and economic benefits of launching into space, of literally leaving this planet, there is something intrinsically unifying about humankind's exploration of the heavens. The partnerships we've forged are going to give more people around the world the opportunity to experience the wonder and exhilaration of spaceflight. Through our collaboration and cooperation, many more people will be able to realize the dream of leaving Earth, leaving our home planet, if only for a short time, to float above Earth in microgravity and to see the stars and the majestic tapestry of the Milky Way unobstructed by the artificial lights and dust of our atmosphere. These citizen space travelers will also help us imagine and realize new benefits that can be brought back to Earth. We're grateful for the strong collaboration between NASA, the UK Space Agency, and the European Space Agency in human spaceflight. Our exploration of Mars and many other planetary and Earth science missions with them have been incredible. Both our countries understand that space exploration is important for every nation on Earth and can only be achieved through international collaboration. The future of space exploration is bright, but it will be up to all of us in this assembly to continue working together on this great adventure. At NASA, we're embarked on an incredible human journey deeper into our solar system than ever before. I fervently hope that you and the Royal Academy of Aeronautical Society, as well as all of the citizens of the UK, will join us and celebrate the accomplishment of each new milestone. If we do this together, I'm confident we will improve life on Earth and transform our shared vision of space exploration into a shared reality of unlimited discovery. I'd like to thank you all again for the opportunity to address this group, and I think, if it's okay, can we take some questions? Be more than happy to do so.